Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. I'm Susan Wilson, 208 South Main Street, Suite number 2 here in Moscow. And I represent Henry Nygaard, who's the owner of the two properties, Morton and Main Street. And as usual, Mike did a great job. I would just be redundant if I stood up here and repeated everything. So I'll just emphasize a few of the points. The R4 designation is the most appropriate designation under the Urban Residential Comprehensive Plan designation. There were some concerns when we went through the neighborhood meeting that this took some potential commercial property off of, excuse me, out of the area. Thankfully, the R4 designation allows for 2,000 square feet of professional office space. So that kind of helped eliminate that issue. They're all used as residential properties. My client is hoping to sell those properties, and obviously when you have non-conforming uses, it creates difficulty in getting financing. And we heard that multiple times when we went through the neighborhood meeting. When the city actually wanted to enlarge the area, they asked me to contact the property owners around there, and I tried to contact as most of them as I could. I didn't get all of them, but all the ones that I did get were very much in favor of this, and there were several that were adamant because they ran into significant challenges in trying to refinance based on the non-conforming zone. So this would create a conforming zone, which would allow them and my client, and I believe there's another actual property owner who's looking to sell property within there, to eliminate the obstacle that this nonconformity creates for refinancing. At the neighborhood meeting, there was some discussion about potentially exploring the RO zone versus the R4 zone, the residential office versus R4. And both of those zones actually would allow residential uses, all levels of residential uses, to be conforming. And both of them actually allow office space. So the RO designation, I understand, may be a little bit more general versus the professional office space under the R4. But ultimately, these properties are more appropriately zoned R4, and for this reason. When I went to appraisers and a mortgage broker, I asked them whether there's going to be an issue with an RO designation versus an R4 designation, since both of them allow for conformities. And their response was some lenders actually require sold comparables to be within the same subject zoned area as the property we're trying to sell. So in this case, as you're probably aware, the city of Moscow has a few RO zones. So in order to get a sold comparable within the RO zone, if this were zoned to RO, it would create still significant challenges to financing. So it really is just a natural to have it R4, and for all those reasons and the reasons that Mike's presented. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any council members? No? Thank you for offering.
Thank you very much.
Is there other testimony in support of the proposed rezone? Is there testimony in opposition or general testimony? Okay, seeing no one come forward, then I'll close the public hearing and open it up to the council for its discussion. How would you like to proceed, Wayne?
We get a variety of different requests to rezone property every year, of course, and Mike did an excellent job tonight of presenting it, and I think it totally makes sense. One of the big problems, and I've seen this in some of the other areas, are folks that may have a duplex that should be zoned R2, but they're in an R1 residence or R1 zone for one reason or another. If they have a fire, they by right cannot rebuild. That's the same situation that exists here. These residences, if they're in motor business, if they have a major fire and destruction, they by right cannot rebuild them. I think we've been able to exclude 2 of the commercial properties from that and leave that zone commercial. So the whole thing makes sense. It's a good transition. It matches the R4 that's already there. I thought about R3, but then you can't have residential office in R3, so R4 does make sense. And so I think that being said, I'm going to go ahead and put a motion forward to approve the rezone ordinance under suspension of the rules requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that it be read by title and published by summary.
Second.
Okay, we have Wayne's motion and Tom's second. Is there discussion of that? And seeing,
These make perfect sense.
seeing none, hearing none, then we'll start the roll call vote with you, Walter.
Thank you, ma'am. Aye.
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 Okay, that motion carries, and so that's ordinance number 2000, should be 11, right? -1, correct? So that was just a typo on your your documents in your form there. An ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, Municipal Corporation of Idaho, providing for the zoning of approximately 3.53 acres described in Section 1 of this ordinance, multiple family residential R4, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law. And I assume we need a statement, a reasoned statement as well. And council has a sample of what the Planning and Zoning Commission put forward in their packets as well. Wayne?
I'll make a motion to accept the reasoned statement as presented by Planning and Zoning.
And make refer to the
I'll second that.
date here.
Which the date is December 8th, 2010.
And that was a second from Tom. Okay. Any discussion of that? Okay. Hearing none, we'll start with you, Tim.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries, and the reasoned statement of relevant criteria and standards is thereby adopted.